So the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, is it still relevant? Yeah, it is. So the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K has been my main shooter now for about 3 years. I got this camera in 2020, and of course we know that this has been out since 2018, so 4 years in our world of technology moving so quickly is pretty old. And there's actually other iterations that's been out now for the Blackmagic in general. You know, we have the 6K and the 6K Pro. And the question, of course, comes to mind as to if this is still relevant today, or is this something that really is worth any consideration when you're trying to get into filmmaking and you want to invest in gear that's actually not gonna break the bank, or something that is, of course, powerful enough to produce some really stunning imagery. And one of the main things that will pique your interest about this camera is, of course, the price. For $1,300 for the body, you are essentially getting a quote-unquote poor man's red. This creates some very stunning videos, and the 4K resolution is impeccable. And the fact that you could use Blackmagic RAW or B-RAW is amazing option to have when you're shooting, and of course when you're in post. In addition, you can also shoot in ProRes if you want that as well. But of course you can choose the type of compression that you can have with all of the codecs that you have, depending of course on your workflow. Now the low light on this is also very impressive. I've had the opportunity to shoot some low light stuff with this, and it's great. So this has dual native ISO, and once you go past 1000 ISO and you go to 1250, you'll see how the imagery has really cleared up, and you'll see very, very small amounts of noise. So it really helps out when you need more, more sensitivity when you're shooting low light. And it's just great to have that option. Now, as you guys can see, this is actually rigged up. Now, of course, I mentioned that this camera is cheap and affordable. The main thing that you gotta understand is you have to rig this up before you use it. At $1,300, you're probably gonna spend another $1,000 or $1,500 on top of that to get the lens, to get some additional accessories, and just essentially build a kit as to, depending on what kind of stuff you shoot. Now, as you guys can see, I have a cage, 12 to 35 Lumix, which is essentially a 24 to 70 millimeter, and of course a battery extender, which is an NPF 960. This essentially gives this camera a lot more juice. The problem with the Blackmagic is the fact that the LP batteries that this comes with will only really give you about 40 to 45 minutes of use. It is very, very power hungry. So really, if you're using this on situations where you have to shoot more than an hour, which you probably are, you definitely need to get some battery extenders. And so that's why I have it right here. And the great thing is, of course, this provides some additional stability, of course, when you add more weight. And that's actually one of the complaints that I've had before, and I still do now, is that it doesn't have IBIS. I get it that cinema cameras aren't supposed to have that, but with that said, it would have been a nice feature to have. So, overall, the best way to really do it is rig it up to where you have more weight, because that gives you a little bit more stability. The touchscreen on this is great because the UI is so easy to navigate. And in addition, there are buttons here on the side that you can see that in terms of automating it a little bit. So you have your iris, you have your high frame rate, and you have the zoom function here to make sure, or to help you with getting the right focus. You also need a CFast for this. So it uses a CFast 2.0. This is what I use. These, of course, when you're shooting high resolution 4K and you have, Blackmagic RAW, of course, you need a fast card in order to record all that information. It also does have an SD card slot. Of course, you can't just use any regular SDs. You need something that is able to write information fast. So, of course, the SanDisk Extreme Pros are pretty standard-ish. I've had the opportunity to shoot some really amazing things with this. Lots of events, lots of car commercials and stuff, lots of promos. You name it. I've pretty much done it with this. And I do have a Ronin S that I use as my gimbal, as I do gimbal stuff with this as well. Now, another thing that would have been nice as well is to have autofocus. Of course, this is an all manual camera. So if you're doing run and gun, you have to do this, right? You have to really be on top of the focus ring and make sure that, you know, that you're on focus. But the great thing is that you have focus peaking to make sure that you're on point. And yeah, I mean, all the stuff that you guys are looking at right now is all from the Blackmagic, all the footage. And the crazy thing is that this camera has actually fallen off of a car going at about 40 miles per hour. One of our suction mounts actually failed, and this actually fell. And surprisingly, it survived. The lens, not so much. And you know, as you guys can see, this flap right here for the CFast and the SD card slot is just held on by gaff tape. It is pretty beat up. It has a bunch of gaff tape all over it because before, when I started, I figured, oh, you know, I should gaff tape it because I don't want to scratch it. But as you guys can see, this has seen a lot of action. Will I be upgrading eventually? Yeah, absolutely. I think one of these days I will have to retire this, and there are certainly other cameras that are better, but the problem is they're way more. And at this point, I don't see a reason as to why I should upgrade, especially since, of course, I've just been using it so much and I've just gotten so used to all of the UI, and you know, the touchscreen is great, and it's just so easy to use, and I've just gotten more accustomed to some of the drawbacks that it has. But anyone out there that's really looking for a camera that will essentially help you elevate your work and the type of imagery that you get, this is a great place to look, or this is a great place to start. So yeah, that is still very much relevant today. And I think people out there, you know, are too focused on getting the newest camera. I would say that I provide an example that you don't need the best camera to produce some really awesome footage, and really focus on developing your skills and your talent with whatever it is that you have. But that's about it, guys, with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. I hope this was insightful and helped you out with potentially making a decision as to whether or not you should get this. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see next for a video on this channel. And thanks again, you guys, for spending the time with me. And I'll see you guys next time.